And I think that this is a great segue into the issue of economics, particularly the economic issues that are facing Florida's 20th Congressional District, according to the American Community Survey on House.gov. And this is going back to 2019, and obviously things have only gotten worse, unfortunately. But poverty in Florida's 20th Congressional District is 3 points below the national average, 18% poverty rate for seniors, 17% overall. What are some economic solutions that you guys think would benefit well for the district? Obviously, there are many limitations, and we'll get into the limitations that freshman congressional representatives ultimately face. But what are some of those economic ideas? Obviously, we're big supporters of a more green energy economy. Obviously, the Green New Deal comes to mind, but there's a lot of different philosophies out there that one may have. So let's mix it up a little bit. Let's go with Representative Hardy first on this one. What are your thoughts as far as what you would consider to be one of what you would consider to be a strong suited economic solution to dealing with the high level of poverty in Florida's 20th Congressional District?
You know, I appreciate the question. I'm going to try to approach that from a few different angles. I think the first thing is we have to have a kind of mental repeal of the last 40 years of rhetoric around programs meant to help people living in poverty. Okay, programs meant to help poor people. Beginning with Reagan, we had this idea of anti-poverty programs as being things that are basically these temporary aids until people work themselves out of poverty, and that the goal wasn't to make the poor less miserable, right? Because poverty is an immiserating experience. Okay, Reagan's idea was the point of these programs is not to allow people to live in dignity whether they're poor or not. That the only value to these programs is that they helped people who were poor sustain themselves until they could no longer be poor. That to me, we have to take a step back from that and realize that it's okay to help the poor without this idea that they should be bootstrapping their way to middle class or upper middle class life. And it's, you know, what it is, there's an internal judgment happening about people who are living in poverty, right? When we have this idea of welfare to work, like, no, let's just provide people welfare because it's wrong in a country as rich as ours for people to not be able to live with dignity, right? So that's number one. Number two, something that I think we should really get away from is this concept of trickle-down economics, this idea that says in order for us to help poor people, what we have to do is incentivize businesses to create jobs for people who need or want jobs. That, to me, all variations and manifestations of that idea is something that we really need to leave behind. And to me, I'm reminded of our conversation about how to help folks who are unhoused, right? We can make this complicated or we can make it simple, but people who are unhoused because they don't have houses. Give them houses and let other things sort themselves out. Give them houses, give them healthcare, give them all sorts of other things. But the key thing is that they don't have a house. So give them that. With folks who don't have jobs, my gosh, we can give them a job. And that's where an idea like the Green New Deal comes in, because it has a federal jobs guarantee. That's where an idea like a civilian climate corps comes in, building on one of Roosevelt's greatest accomplishments, which was the Works Progress Administration, saying that, okay, folks don't have jobs. We're not going to create these complicated programs to incentivize big corporations to employ them. There's plenty of projects we can do. In Roosevelt's time, it was building bridges and dams and so on, right? And we'll give them jobs directly. In our time, it's addressing the most important challenge and crisis of humanity, which is climate change. And there are lots of jobs that we can give people directly. That to me is the most important thing. And for me, when I think about creating jobs in this district, I'm thinking about the Green New Deal. I'm thinking about a federal jobs guarantee. I'm thinking about a civilian climate corps. And I'm thinking about our public schools and all these other areas where we have an opportunity to give folks jobs directly.
Yeah. Very, very well said, Omari. I'm going to swing it over to Sheila now. If you have your thoughts, obviously Omari has specified his support for the Green New Deal as well as the federal jobs guarantee. Yeah. What are your thoughts about what would be some long sustaining economic solutions for the poverty issues facing Florida's 20th district?
Well, I'm happy to see that we started rethinking poverty, but the rethinking of poverty hasn't been something that's done on a mass scale. What I'm talking about are our stimulus checks that we recently saw. We're seeing that now we have the child income tax credit, which gives people who have children $300 per person. And the impact of that has been reducing poverty amongst families close to or even more than 40%, which is a start, right? But what about everyone else who's trying to recover? What about everyone in this country? Our district has 50% over 55 and older. Are we saying that they can live in poverty and not recover? What about the other class of people who are being cemented into poverty with their student loan debt, who can't afford to even have a house, buy a house, because the housing market is too expensive? Or what about the mother who's sitting there renting but now can't afford her rent because the prices of rent have gone on? If we don't act right now and extend how we're rethinking poverty, we're going to have our district further ingratiated in poverty. And that's why I'm asking for the $1,000 a month economic stimulus at least until we recover. Because then we'll see districts like District 20 who can now have a poverty rate shrinking at a pace of 40%. That's huge. And the reason why it's so deserving in our district is because our district has been systematically left out of economic opportunities. For example, when it comes to federal funding and grant acquisition, we see that minorities, women have not had the same chances at getting these contracts. There's no need anymore for us to do research. The research is there. The pay gap is present. The only question is how are we actually going to create jobs, how are we actually going to build wealth, and how are we going to expand small businesses? And it's very complicated. And I think that's why the 20th district is in the situation that it's been in. We haven't had anyone who's actually experienced or had the experience of creating jobs. We haven't had anybody who had the experience of creating generational wealth, and we haven't had anybody who had the experience of growing small businesses. And that's what makes me specifically suited for this job in Congress at this time. I have done all of these things, and job creation doesn't just come by, we're going to just pass a bill. It's more strategic than that. What we have found is when you help small businesses acquire those federal contracts, they hire within the district. That's how we were able to come in and create more than 1,200 jobs, because I hired the people I knew. I hired my friends, my neighbors, and we saw a rising tide of economic change. When it comes to even education, there's a reason why our company created a vocational school, because we saw that we needed some vocational training, not just regular college training. The vocational training was at a fraction of a cost. Because we linked it to our business, we had people who had training and jobs immediately. That's where the system has to change. That's why we need real people who are suffering real issues to come into Congress and change it and shake it. Anybody who's been in office for 10, 20, this is on your watch. We have slid back, eroded on your watch. So to believe that there's going to be a magic wand of prosperity or economic growth just because you say so, we have to test that. We have to look at tangible results, proven numbers. And that's the difference I think we have to look at. So what I'm proposing is not just that $1,000, but actually positioning our community and rechanging how you acquire federal contracts, making it simplified. You shouldn't have to hire an attorney to apply for one. You shouldn't have to hire a grant writer. And we have to ensure that the money that's being put out is actually required to be spent in the district by companies that live in the district. So it's a bigger scale adjustment that is going to take a mindset shift of not just electeds who are in Congress, but also the people living here and feeling it.
So, Sheila, you have gone with UBI, which is another great policy, as well as entrepreneurship, the jobs you have created in the district. Commissioner, please share your thoughts. Obviously,
I mean, he opened up talking a little bit also about small business and the importance of small 100%. Business. And I know that that's something that Commissioner Holness has been very involved in, and the Chamber of Commerce. So, yeah, talk a little bit about like what economic... I mean, we need economic improvement significantly everywhere, but in your district in particular. Wait, unmute. Unmute.
So let me say this, that a jobs program is good. Having basic income for especially the lowest income people is a good idea also. The Green New Deals, when implemented, will bring about tremendous amount of change in the dynamics and seek to ensure that there's economic justice for communities such as District 20 that has been left behind in high poverty. I would propose some other thoughts also. One of the things that we must do is ensure that we're training our workforce for the jobs that are here. And there's a lot of technical jobs that's available. We should put programs in place to where we can do more high-tech manufacturing. For example, in medical devices, we are a country that leads that. We ought to look to see how we do that, because the truth is this: we're not going to be able to compete with the rest of the world in some of these mundane jobs that making clothes and other items. You know, folks complain that those jobs are gone. I think it's gone for good. So we've got to look to be more innovative and creative and look to the future. In case of the new Green New Deal, we must look to see how we position ourselves to be the leader in environmental technology, so that the rest of the world can follow us. But again, it's going to take training. So we must now prepare the folks within communities like these by ensuring that we have dollars in place and put apprenticeship programs in place that help to lift them up. That's something that I've worked to really push forward in Broward County as we build. We get involved with the trades, but we also have to ensure that those in this district has the money to go to college, because some of these will require college education. Not all of it, but some will, and we have to look at that also. If we're able to sell more of our goods and our services to the rest of the world, and I keep emphasizing that, because I think a lot of Americans don't look outside, but we're in a global economy. We have to compete globally. China is out competing us in building infrastructure in other countries, ports, airports, roadways, major hotels. We're not looking to see how we grow our small minority women-owned business to fit in that space. We're not giving them the technical support, the access to capital that's necessary. And we need to target communities like these. Now, the opportunity zones that's created was supposed to be this panacea. That ain't not going to happen. We allow for people who have wealth, who earn capital gains, to write off their capital gains taxes because they build something or put an enterprise in these opportunity zones. But nothing in it requires that anyone from those communities be given a job. Nothing. Nothing says that these businesses that are within these communities be given a contract to work on these projects. So that must change. And I know they're looking to expand it. There's a Republican that wants to increase the number. But until that change, we shouldn't go any further with it. Further, within these communities, just the same way we can allow for wealthy people to have wide capital gains, I'd say those who live in these communities that find a few dollars should not pay any capital gains either, at all. So we balance the playing field and look to see how we can target money for use the opportunity zone, because guess what? No one can say, well, you only target in the Black community or brown community. It's targeted wherever the poverty and the unemployment is highest. You can now put additional funding in place to ensure that we give in the businesses that are there technical support, access to capital, put training dollars in these communities, educational dollars, healthcare dollars, because not only is there poverty, there's also poor outcomes for healthcare issues and many other issues that District 20 and other communities similar face. So it's got to be comprehensive. And further, Social Security amount needs to be increased, because a lot of folks in our district lives on Social Security. I can tell you that I get the calls for services for these folks who have a difficult time being able to cover their expenses, and we have to find ways and means to supplement that. That should be increased so that it's a livable amount at minimum.
So that's so Social Security for all, but you definitely hit UBI. Commissioner, you definitely hit on a couple of ones that were very important. Obviously, apprenticeship seems to be the one that you're really focused on. That's a great one as well. Little America First in there, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's totally fine. So obviously you guys hit on some really important points, and you all distinguished yourselves very clearly. And I think that is very important.
Or they're just getting used to doing panels.
Well, that's also possible as well.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.